I have this little acronym which I want to share with you in case it sparks anything at all. And it is also called MAGIC. No surprises there. But M stands for mindfulness. For me, mindfulness is the root of everything that I do. It's the root of my spirituality. It's the root of my mothering, because mindfulness teaches us to pay attention to the world which is around us, and to pay a very deep, very reverent, very devoted kind of attention, where you are not judging, or you are not, it's not the same as hypervigilance, where you are like, okay, what's going to happen next, and I need to be able to control the situation, I need to know what's happening so that I can take the right action. No, it's not that way. It's attention with a lot of interest and kindness and curiosity, so that life can unfold and we can see its beauty. So the M of magic for me stands for mindfulness. I feel like nothing else that I say will make sense if I'm not able to get this concept across, that mindfulness is about paying kind, curious attention, loving attention to the world which is around us, to ourselves, to our bodies, to the ordinary, to anything and everything, whether it is your work or it is your passions or your hobbies or anything at all, your spirituality. When you start paying attention, especially to those internal body sensations, suddenly life comes alive. And so I will explain more in the G part of it, of magic. But the next part is A, which is art. Again, I came to art very late. I came to art as a mother. I was already 37 years old. My daughter was 2 years old. And one day I was seeing her scribbling. And I had this sudden urge, very strong urge to be my child. And I was very taken aback. I was like, okay, I've never experienced this feeling before. She was just freely scribbling and coloring on a piece of paper. And I felt like I had never felt that sense of freedom. I wanted to see what it was like. So I bought myself a packet of crayons, children's crayons, and I started just scribbling on paper to give myself that same sense of freedom. And from there on, art became a completely different, it opened my eyes completely. Before this, I was completely a person who thought I was not artistic, I could not draw, I could not I was not interested in art, images didn't make sense to me. And suddenly my eyes got opened up and I got interested in watercolor and mixed media and so many different wonderful things in the world of art. But what I found, most of all, the lesson that art brings to me, that this is why it's there in my magic formula for leading a magical life, is that there are two or three things. One is that for me personally, I feel like if art was never a part of my life for 38 years and suddenly art has opened my eyes to so much wonder and joy, it makes me wonder what else is there in this life. It makes me develop a positive anticipation for life. What else is there? What more wonderful things are there which I have not explored, which I have not seen? And the second thing that art does, and especially the way children do art, they create for the sake of expressing themselves. They create uh, for the joy of scribbling, for the joy of colors. Because they like purple, they will use purple. The sun is not purple color, but they want to use purple, so they use purple. And so that gave me a sense of freedom in expressing myself. What I create does not have to be beautiful. The process itself is meaningful because I am expressing something which is inside me, because I am being playful and joyful. Again, it comes back to being very childlike and innocent. It's not, for me, art is not about a pretty picture. When I initially started art, I wanted to go for all the classes and I wanted to learn sketching and drawing. I wanted to learn techniques. I wanted to make that pretty picture which I can frame and put on my wall. I wanted to make that pretty picture which I can show people and they will say, wow, you are such a wonderful artist. But until I evolved away from that and started finding joy in the process itself, art was not a magical thing for me. So it only became magical, and it can only be magical if we allow the process itself to lead us. The next thing is the G. And for me, the G of magic stands for gratitude and joy. I know joy is J, but both gratitude and joy, I feel they are two sides of the same coin. We hear a lot about gratitude practices these days. There is so much that people keep talking about gratitude and keeping a gratitude journal and making a gratitude list. And all of these things are very nice. They're very wonderful if they work for you. For a lot of people, including me, just sitting down and making a list, it doesn't work. It becomes a rote activity. It becomes like a chore. Okay, let me name 5 things that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the roof on my head. I'm grateful I have food to eat. It's not that I'm not grateful for it. I start taking it for granted when I'm every day writing down the same things in a journal. Instead, what I found is that through mindfulness, when I learn to pay attention, when I learn to pay attention to the little moments of life, for example, how is that particular ray of sun and slanting in through the window, and it is creating this beautiful pattern or reflection of shadows on my floor. And that is beautiful. And I notice it. And because I've noticed that moment, which is beautiful, inside me, I can feel spontaneous gratitude, which is welling up. That's why I keep saying mindfulness is the root of everything. When you learn to pay attention to these small things, like the voice of your child, or the voice of children, or the chirping of birds, whatever it might be for you on a given day, and day to day it might change, right? Because that's the beauty of life, it's ever changing. But if we keep learning to pay attention to the little things and then noticing what does that beautiful flower and seeing the bee buzzing on it, what does it spark inside me? What are the sensations inside my body when I see that? That is spontaneous gratitude. That is spontaneous joy. And the more and more we build such moments into our day of noticing the outside, which beauty in very small, very mundane things, and then reflecting it back internally, what is happening inside my body, we create almost this dance between ourselves and the lives that we are leading, which lead to more and more gratitude, more and more joy. And that brings me to I, which is imagination. And the reason why it is key for me is because imagination allows us to do two things. It allows us to time travel in the first place. It allows us to go back in the past and to look at our child self, to look at the hurts that we may have had or the lessons that we have learned. And from our present state of wisdom, we can go back into the past and give ourselves whatever our past selves needed, which is love or affection or validation. This is only possible in imagination. We can't actually time travel except in imagination. We can also go into the future and shape, see what kind of world we want to leave for the generations to come. And we can start shaping that world in our present by imagining what is possible in the future. If you think of all of the inventions like the Wright brothers and the aeroplane or any invention, it first began as a spark of imagination in the mind of the inventor, in the mind of the creator. And this is where human beings are different from other animals, because we have this capacity for imagination. But I also know that we can sometimes misuse imagination, and I will not call it imagination then. But what can happen is that when we go into the past, we can get stuck over there. We can get stuck in, oh, it used to be so wonderful in the past. We can get stuck in nostalgia. We can get stuck in longing for the past instead of being rooted in the present. And this is what I would call as fantasy, where we either want to escape. Fantasy is about escape, escape into the past or escape into a future which is more beautiful, or escape into the dread of a future which is so bad ki it doesn't matter what you do now. So you become like this numb person almost. But imagination is powerful, it's potent, it is energy. Imagination is always rooted in the body again, which is why this thing course is called Your Body Whispers, because it's not just about thinking of a pretty picture of the future or thinking about a glorious past. It is about how to take anything from the past or what we wish for the future and what sensations it produces now in our body, what emotions it produces now in our body, and using those sensations and emotions to do the things that we need to do in order to rectify that past or to build that future. So, imagination has been a very, very potent tool for me in my personal practice. And I just wanted to offer these few things: mindfulness, art, gratitude and joy, imagination, and the last one is creativity. And I have very specifically, very deliberately separated creativity from art, because I know a lot of people think I am not an artist, I am not an artistic person. And they think of art as coloring, painting, drawing, sketching, doodling, these things which we do to make marks on paper. And I hope tomorrow's prompt will show that all of us have an artist inside us. We don't have to all be M.F. Hussain or some person who sells paintings for lakhs and crores of rupees, but we all have the ability to use art to bring joy to ourselves and our lives and to express what is inside us. But creativity is different. And this is where I really want to encourage everyone to think of the different ways in which you are creative. Now, your creativity can show up in different ways, okay? Creativity is not just about crafting or collaging or making something beautiful. in terms of sticking or stitching or gluing. Creativity is coming up with a creative solution for a problem you may have in your workplace. That's creative. Or coming up with a new creative dish while you're cooking, because you don't have certain items for that recipe, but you kind of come up with a option which will allow you to create that dish without that item. We're all creative beings. Human beings, our birthright is creativity. We are all creative beings, and we all express our creativity every single day in different ways. But we are not taught to recognize this as creative, and we're not taught to give ourselves the credit for that creativity. And when we don't do that, we diminish our capacity to see ourselves as creative people. Because once we start seeing ourselves, our own creativity showing up in life in different ways, in the gifts we choose for our people, in the thoughtfulness of something that we do for someone else, in the way we take a particular walk and not another walk so we can enjoy a beautiful garden or a scenic route. All of these are examples of us being creative in the options that we have in our life. Once we start seeing ourselves as creative people, we become more confident in understanding that we can use our creativity to cope with anything in life. So I believe that thinking of yourself as a creative person is a very essential tool to feeling more capable and confident in your life, as well as in the impact that you want to have in your life. And this is the final thing. The whole point of today is of this whole actually event is twofold. One is that we are worthy of paying attention to, because every single human being, including us, even if we don't believe it, we matter. And you don't need to do anything great in the world in order for you to be a worthy human being who is worthy of your own attention. You deserve your own attention. You deserve your own tenderness. You deserve your own kindness. But the fact is, part of being human is that we want to leave our mark on the world. We want to create an impact. And it may be in different spheres. It may be in parenting. It may be in the job that we have. It may be in passions that we have, or in hobbies that we have. We may have a certain streak of activism in a particular area. We all want to create impact in big and small ways. But unless we tend to ourselves, unless we fuel ourselves up through magic, through mindfulness, through recognizing ourselves as creative, capable beings, we will burn ourselves out and exhaust ourselves trying to create that impact. Whereas if we learn to fill ourselves up, to fuel ourselves up, then the impact that we create in the world will overflow from what we are filling ourselves up with. So that brings me to the conclusion of today. I'm really very excited about tomorrow and day after's prompts, which are about opening ourselves up more and more to the magic which is in our supposedly ordinary, supposedly mundane lives.